nuclear safety and security protection zone around the nuclear power plant at Zaporizhia. And we have been working very, very hard. I've already met Foreign Minister Lavrov, Foreign Minister Kuleba. I had a meeting with President Macron and the foreign ministers of the G7. Yeah, I had a meeting with the two foreign ministers, Foreign Minister Lavrov, Foreign Minister Kuleba, and then a meeting organized or presided by President Macron and the Ukrainian Prime Minister with the foreign ministers of the G7 countries, the EU, High Representative Borrell, and Mexico as well was present. So, you know, the wheels are in motion, and I'm, you know, at your disposal for any questions that you may have. Wishing I can answer to all of them.
We'll start over there. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Director General, on behalf of the United Nations Correspondent Association for this briefing. Valeria Robecco from ANSA Newswire. So my question is, Russia called its own technicians to manage the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant, Rosatom, if I'm not wrong. So my question is, can Rosatom technicians be trusted in managing the plant? Are they reliable for a safe management of the plant? Thank you so much.
Let me clarify something. The plant continues to be managed and operated by the Energoatom Ukrainian technicians and employees. What you have is the presence of a number of, limited number, between 10 and 12 of Rosatom experts as well, but they are not managed by the Ukrainian workforce there.
CBS.
Thank you, Frederick. Thank you, Director General.
Hello.
Nice to see you again. It's Pamela Falk from CBS
Likewise,
News.
Pamela, good to see you.
On this zone, obviously the question of the day is, did you get a result? Have they agreed to it? But you're clearly not there yet. But you've spoken with all sides. How far are you from getting an agreement on a zone? And are you including the South? You also went to the South Ukraine.
Indeed.
That also, since the time you went, was shelled. So would the zone apply to all of them? And then the bigger picture question on this is, how worried are you about an accident happening? I mean, something melting down in any of those, and how far would it go?
So now we started with the real negotiation of the parameters of the zone. This is a process which is carried out only with Ukraine and also, of course, with Russia. So this is one thing. Getting an agreement today would have been nice, but you can imagine that these are very complex issues that require perhaps a bit more than one meeting. So, but we are already working on the very concrete aspects that would be required to have the zone being established. What is clear, and this is why I mentioned the number of people and ministers and even presidents, prime ministers that I saw in these few hours here, that there is, I would say, above differences that do exist, there is a conviction that the establishment of this zone is indispensable. Let's be clear, this nuclear power plant is being shelled out. So you need to protect it in some way. And we have the means, the technical knowledge, as the IAEA, to know what needs to be done and how to do it. So this process has started. I have, of course, indicated that this is not a negotiation of a treaty or something that could, be afforded the luxury of weeks and months and meetings, some preparatory meetings, and we have to decide on it as soon as possible. And I hope I will be able to do that. In terms of the preoccupation, it's huge. Since the shelling and the bombardment doesn't stop, since almost every day we have a new episode After I visited Zaporizhia for a few days, the situation, without being absolutely quiet, became a bit better, but then problems reappeared. And what we saw in the last few hours was, again, shelling and direct attacks on the facility. So I'm very worried. One of the things that happened was that a pool where spent nuclear fuel is being cooled became, stopped operations because one pipeline was affected, etc. So anytime something can happen. I've been saying this for many, many months. We are playing with fire. We continue to play with fire. I'm trying to do as much as I can, as fast as I can.
Wait, can I just clarify just the sentence that you said, that all sides agree that, that it's indispensable? Is that Russia and Ukraine?
I think they know it's indispensable. I would not speak for them. I should never do that. But the mere fact that the two foreign ministers are sitting down with me and are listening to our ideas, I think it's a good indicator that there is a very strong, solid base for this thing to happen.
Yes, Joseph Klein, Canada Free Press.
Where are you? Sorry. Sorry.
Yeah, Joseph Klein, Canada Free Press. I just
Hello.
want to turn to Iran for a moment. Could you tell us where things stand in the IAEA's efforts to get Iran to agree to allow you to continue your investigation of past traces of uranium, and also to allow you back into the various sites so that you can monitor activities?
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah. Of course, our inspections continue. What has happened is that we have been limited. Some of our capacities have been curtailed or interrupted. Where we stand is that we have been reporting, including to the Board of Governors of the IAEA, on what I have characterized as a lack of progress in the engagement. And I have been manifesting to our Iranian counterparts that we are ready to re-engage. These things are not going to be wished away, are there, and we need to clarify them. I hope in the next few days to be able to re-establish some contacts so that we can continue with this process, which has been lingering for a long time.
Yes, over there.
Mr. Grossi, thank you so much for doing this today. As you know, most Iranian diplomats and delegations are here, including Bagheri Kani, who is leading the talks in Vienna. Have you met with him? Did you have any breakthrough? What do you have to share with us in terms of from meeting Iranian diplomats and in terms of JCPOA and the questions of IAEA?
I haven't met with them here in New York. They know that I'm available, that I'm here, but we haven't met. I hope to be able to see them. In a few days, we open the General Conference of the IAEA. It's like the General Assembly here, but for the IAEA in Vienna, and I hope there will be an opportunity there. I will let you know more when I know.
Thank you.
Yes. Over there.
James Bays from Al Jazeera. Flipping back to Zaporizhia, if I can.
Yes, of course.
When you last addressed the Security Council on the 6th of September, afterwards, Ambassador Nebenzia was pretty sceptical about your plan. So can you tell us what response you got from Foreign Minister Lavrov to your proposal, which, as I say, the Russian side seemed sceptical at the beginning of the month? And secondly, President Erdogan, when he spoke to the UN General Assembly, said the next priority of diplomacy was Zaporizhia. As you know, President Erdogan was instrumental with the UN on that grain deal. Mm-hmm. He's now instrumental, we think, in the ongoing prisoner swap, which is happening as we speak. Is that Turkish route that's yielded success in diplomacy so far, is that part of are the Turks part of your initiative with regard to Zaporizhia?
Well, first, on the first part, on the skepticism or otherwise, I would say these are impressions, and impressions are on the eye of the beholder. I am negotiating with Russia at the moment on the establishment of the zone, and with Ukraine of course. So at this point, I think characterizations are of course possible and perfect with me, but I'm concentrating in getting to yes on both sides. On the second part of your question, no, we have not been discussing. I recognize the constructive role Turkey has been playing. You may remember that at the beginning of the year in Antalya, I was able to meet also with Foreign Minister Lavrov and with Foreign Minister Kuleba, so I know that they have been playing this role, but not at this time.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Majid Ghali, Rudao Media Network. Going back to the issue of Iran, Mr. Director General, in terms of timeline, let's say if Iran opens its door for the 3 sides and let your investigators in, how long it will take for IAEA to make sure that what happened to those traces to those uranium? Is there a timeline? And also, is there a method to make sure that what they say that Iran's nuclear program is 100% peaceful in its nature? Thank you.
Well, in terms of a timeline, it's difficult to say because the clarification exercise is an interactive, iterative exercise where we put questions, receive answers, and depending on the nature of these answers, there may be more questions or not. So to tell you now, we hope that in 3 weeks we'll be able. It will be a bit artificial. I hope you would agree with me. So it will depend on the level of engagement. We do not. At the same time, I don't want to, leave you without an idea. And what we believe is that with a full engagement, with openness, this should not take years. It should take perhaps a few months. But I am pretty confident that we would be able to get to some clarification of what happened there. Did I miss anything on your question? No.
Question over there. Yes.
Hello, thank you
Hello.
so much. I'm Veronica from Ukraine.
Hello.
I want to ask you about the report that was issued not
Yes.
so long ago about the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. You said that Russia, in the report said that Russia must withdraw all the military equipment from the plant and also give some more days off and hours off to the exhausted personnel which is working there. I wonder whether Russia has fulfilled any of your recommendations featured in the report already, and what are the latest news from EIA workers that are still there on the plant? Thank you.
Well, regarding military equipment, this is what it is in the report. It's a public report, 52 pages of information and evaluation and assessment on our part. So I think what we said is clear and has been stated there. I would say that the issue of military equipment, military presence, and so on is part of the protection zone. So I hope to be able to make progress on that side as well. Regarding the staffing issues, they are very important. We are following up very closely. As you know, I have my experts there at the moment as part of ISAMS, the IAEA support and assistance mission in Zaporizhzhia. So they are there, they're in constant contact with them and trying to ensure that their work conditions are normal and everything is in the best possible way. At the same time, we have to recognize that insofar as this situation continues, of course, we are in a situation which is not normal. So it has to be returned to normalcy as soon as possible.
It's Alain Dargham from MTV Lebanon. So technically speaking, so Iran's enriched 60% and close to 90%. This was from your reports. What does guarantee that Iran does not grade of kind of bomb that is not traditional bomb?
Yes. What I would say is that we have to make a differentiation here between having enriched uranium and having a bomb. Having enriched uranium is an indispensable step, if you want, but enriched uranium at that and even higher levels exist in many countries. The issue here is having the necessary collaboration from the Iranian side so that the IAEA can inspect at the level which is required. Regarding a nuclear weapon program, at this point, we do not have any information that Iran would be having such a program. As you know, that requires different activities from simply enriching uranium. That would take other issues into consideration. So at the moment, we are dealing with the nuclear material that exists and trying to make sure that all that material is accounted for.
Question over there, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Grossi. My name is Natalia Lutsenko, ICTV station, Ukraine. I'm a part of Dag Hammarskjöld program here. And as a Ukrainian journalist, I could not ask you, back to the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, I could not ask you about the employees. I mean, we've heard the information that Russian occupier is torturing them. Do you have any information? You've been there. Are they exhausted? I mean, what do these people telling you? And about the mission are still presenting at Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, do occupiers, Russian occupiers, giving them access to every locations they needed for examination? Thank you.
On the staff, which I think is a very, very important issue, I think the report I produced was clear in this sense. The situation is not a sustainable situation. It's a situation of great stress. It is a situation where hierarchy lines could be confused and thus create problems in terms of the functioning of the plant. In terms of torture and things like that, we haven't seen that. The IAEA is objective. We have to inform things as they are. Much as I say this, we are saying the situation is not a sustainable situation. It's a situation of enormous stress and is something that should be corrected. And the second part of your question was?
About the mission and access to other locations.
We do have access to every part. One thing is important. The IAEA is an agency, a technical organization that has been conducting inspections for more than half a century. It's very difficult, if not impossible, to hide things from experienced inspectors. Experienced inspectors know what to look for, what to ask, where to see. And if they were denied access to a place where they should be, I would report it immediately, just in the case of other countries that have been mentioned today. When we have a problem, we immediately ring the alarm bell and say we are not getting to where we would need to be. So we are very confident that the mission is working well. We are going to enlarge the mission. We are going to make it bigger in the next few days. So I believe that we are working well within, of course, the difficult circumstances that are there.
Hi, Mr. Grossi. This is Dr. with China Central Television.
Hello.
You just talked that you have talked with both Russian and Ukrainian ministers, and I presume you talked to them separately.
Yes.
So I just want to know, when you talk to them, what's the biggest differences when you're talking about establish a security zone? What's the biggest difference from both sides that probably you might need to have more work on that?
Well, I would say the negotiation is starting now, and what I'm focusing is on what is needed, to use a technical word, the parameters. What is it that needs to be agreed for a protection zone to be established? And I must say that each side is going to be focusing on the feasibility of these commitments for them. So perhaps I cannot go much further than that at this point, but simply to tell you that it's a very technical conversation when we are looking at what is needed and whether this is agreeable for both.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Grossi. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you
Edith
again.
Lederer from the Associated Press. A couple of follow-ups. First, how are the negotiations that you did today with the two foreign ministers going to be followed up? Here, elsewhere, where? Maybe you'll answer that, and then I'll ask my next follow-up.
I presume, I have discussed just now with Minister Kuleva, I hope to be heading to Kiev or to Ukraine soon, and perhaps later on to Russia at some point. But as I said in the beginning, given the urgency of the situation and the gravity of what's going on the field, we have to move fast. So I'm trying to make it happen as soon as I can.
And I know you met with the G7 foreign ministers. Can you give us what was that meeting about? What came out of it? What did you want from it?
You know, for this negotiation to succeed, of course, it takes us, the IAEA, and Ukraine, mainly, and then, of course, Russia, to agree on something. But it's also very important for other countries to express their views, in particular countries that have been supporting, in this case, Ukraine, but it could be Russia if it was the case. The G7 is not in that configuration. But I think it's important that there is, and I am very grateful for President Macron's initiative to have this, since this is helping me create the necessary awareness and support that is needed for this negotiation to succeed.
And one final follow-up. Is the discussion that you're having with both Russia and Ukraine involving how a zone would be implemented and how an agreement would be enforced?
Yes.
Question over there, yes.
Hello, Mr. Director General. My name is Grossi, a DAC Hammer School Fellow and Asia Times correspondent from Iran.
Hello.
My question is on the JCPOA. Are the technical differences between the IAEA and Iran interactable and are going to result in the suspended animation or the possible collapse of the JCPOA, or are you of the opinion that finally Iran is prepared to respond to your questions and make clarifications that will be conducive to the
nothing is intractable. Nothing is intractable. These questions are pretty straightforward, and I think you know, and the world knows, because my reports are widely known, what is it that we found and the questions we are putting. So I don't think we are overstretching the goodwill of the Islamic Republic by asking them these questions. So I think we could start solving them pretty soon. Well, I hope it is there. I think, as I was saying, I hope to be able to reestablish the dialogue at the appropriate levels, political and also technical, as soon as possible. We are here, and it's in our interest to solve this as soon as possible.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Nick Schifrin from PBS NewsHour. Good to see you.
Hello.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the pipeline that was affected, as you put it earlier, why a pool where spent nuclear fuel is being cooled suddenly stopped operations today? And give us a little context, because I think, as you know, I was just in Ukraine, I was in Nikopol, I was in the edge of Zaporizhia, and at that time, there was a lot of concern about the 6th reactor going under cold shutdown. Of course, it has been because Ukraine was able to restore electricity into the plant. Was there some kind of agreement where Russia stopped hitting, let me rephrase that, was there some kind of agreement where there were explosions that targeted the incoming electricity stopped? And it seems like the period in which there was a little bit of quiet, that the concern reduced a little bit, that allowed Ukraine to reestablish that incoming electricity, that seems to have ended. And so can you explain why? And that's the context for what happened today. Thanks.
There was no agreement. This is why I'm trying to succeed as soon as possible on the establishment of a protection zone. And if anything, and I would say regrettably, the situation has again degraded itself. So an agreement is needed on the establishment of a protection zone. On the issue of the spent fuel, as you know, being 6 reactors there, there's quite a good amount of fresh fuel and also spent fuel. Spent fuel, after it has been burned or used within the reactors, has to be stored and continue to be cooled. These open ponds are part of that process, and in one of these parts there was a pipe that was hit, and it stopped working. But I don't know by what, some projectile, but it was possible for the technical experts there to have a shortcut and to use other still available capacities to continue pumping water into the place. But this is only an example of how is it possible that we have the biggest nuclear power plant in Europe that is working on these conditions: shelled, external power, restored, interrupted, restored, interrupted, fuel, spent fuel ponds, not workable. No one would ever run a plant like this in normal circumstances with all these problems.
The external electricity, that still remains, right?
It remains, but it's very uncertain and unpredictable.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Evelyn Leopold. Mr. Director, if there is no JCPOA deal, are you at all apprehensive that other Middle East nations would move towards building a nuclear weapon?
Well, I believe that going down that path would be very detrimental to international peace and security, so we really hope that doesn't happen. With or without JCPOA, I think this is an absolute factor that should always be respected. We recognize that the absence of an agreement would certainly not add to certainty and to confidence and trust in the region. But that is a speculative question, and I don't like to get too much into speculation.
Question over there.
Yeah, Benny Avni of the New York Sun. President Raisi said today that Iran complied with its JCPOA provisions, considering the unresolved situation, the unresolved questions about enriched uranium found in undeclared site. Would you say that is true? And also, would you say that Iran is also complying with its NPT obligations?
Well, regarding the JCPOA, as everybody knows, Iran was compliant with the provisions of the JCPOA until it decided to gradually reduce its observance of the different obligations and commitments there, and this was done openly. So at the moment, they are not compliant with that, but that is an agreement with a number of states. Regarding the NPT and normal, let's put it like that, regular safeguards obligations, quite clearly not, or at least not in the degree and to the level that they should, because there are these issues on which we have been struggling with Iran, and we haven't been able to clarify them. So that doesn't mean that they are not complying with anything. There are many things that are being observed, but there are these three big question marks, open question marks, that we still have, and they have to be answered. So I hope we will count on their cooperation soon.
Just to follow up on the JCPOA compliance, since these unresolved traces of enriched uranium are they undated? Do they date back to the era when it was compliant with the JCPOA?
In some cases, yes, but there is also additional information that dates to more recent dates, and this is why it's important to. And let me say something. Uranium normally does not have expiry dates like yogurt, so even if it was found in 2003 or 2001 and it was not accounted for, then the question is always the same. if there was uranium, where is it? And let us have access to it, or do you have any other explanation? Why is it no longer around? And then we can work together, hopefully.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Grossi. Just a quick clarification about something you said earlier. You said they know you are here, but you haven't met. Is there a reason that they refuse to meet you, or why hasn't there been more effort to get a meeting with either the Iranian president or, because this seems to be also one of your high priorities. Why didn't it happen during UNGA?
Well,
and a second question, please. How much do you think the Zaporizhia crisis right now has taken away a little bit from the focus on other crises? I know you guys are great at multitasking, but there's so much focus there, and I wonder if there's any distraction.
Well, no, you know, people have asked that question. I think we have a mission, insofar as the IAEA is concerned. So if there are 3 crises, we have to be up to the task. And if there is none, so much better. But maybe it's a matter of a public perception that there has been more focus on this, and also because of the immediacy of the danger. When you're talking about, not necessarily talking about Iran in this case, I'm talking in the absolute, if you allow me. When you talk about the possibility of the obligations under the NPT not being fully observed, etc. So then you are talking about something which may be of concern, but it's a more of a process-oriented thing. Here we are talking about a nuclear power plant which is being bombarded, which is losing external power, where a nuclear accident could take place. So perhaps the gravity, the sense of urgency, the anxiety is much higher in this regard.
Thank you very much. If there are no further questions, then thank you so much for coming.
Thank you very much for your attention and your help. Thank you very much. Have a very good day. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Nice to see you again. Yeah, you know, we're on good hour.